Oysters with STDs. I'm not kidding. You're not going to believe this one. Oh, yeah, and witch executions. What does that have to... What? Believe me, I'll explain it coming up. Anheuser-Busch has poured $600 million into American manufacturing jobs. This might just make up for that Bud Light idiot Dylan Mulvaney crap. It might. And finally, lemon and cherry. Those were my favorites, and we'll let you pick yours coming up at the end. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. That is what we're doing this morning. Good morning, Maryland. Be blessed. Good morning, Danny. Everyone, enjoy your day. I'll be watching later. Got a friend needing a phone call. Just wanted to wish everyone a blessed day. Well, indeed, a blessed Thursday to you. We got a lot going on here. It's a Thursday, which is kind of a blur day, but not today. We got lots of stuff to talk about. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Oysters with STDs, witch executions, and how more and fewer clouds are both good and bad news. All of this confusion has to do with the idiotic thing called Earth Day. Yep. Happy birthday, Earth. What would you buy a planet that has everything? Don't know. Anyway, another solar lap. This is Earth Day. Oh boy, which means one thing. We're doomed. Now let's face it. After generations of promised catastrophe, saying Happy Earth Day seems a little bit out of place. Good luck finding anyone even remotely attached to environmentalism being anything even closely resembling happy. We have been conditioned now for generations on that we're all on the brink of planetary annihilation. It's all coming to an end, doom and gloom. That's at least according to the alleged adherence to science. I am the science. Somehow, mankind is going to kill off the billions of years old Earth, even though we have been on this rock for a little teeny tiny, can't even see it with the naked eye, fraction of a percentage of all the time the Earth has been here. Oh yeah, but we're going to destroy it. Good news, though. It's only going to take us drastically altering our lifestyles, regressing to primitive standards, and throwing off the vast fortunes into programs which are designed, allegedly, to save the planet. Now, I will allow myself to be a rather harsh critic. There are issues to be found in the messaging from the soup tossers, coding cherished artworks, all in the name of the planet. For instance, not terribly long ago, if anybody was heard uttering words aligned with lectures from the environmental movement, like, I can't control the weather, we would be tossing them into the mental institution for observation, at least. Today, they would sound very much like the tribal leaders tossing virgins into volcanoes, if you know what I mean. And still, these voices get trotted out as experts, and we have to heed their directives as they declare that the science is settled, all because there is scientific consensus about global warming. That is, climate change. Well, actually, it's now a climate crisis. Yeah, they changed it again. Rest assured, though, every scientist agrees. They just can't seem to agree on what to call it. Well, in actuality, it's really more the consensus of the media coverage of the scientific community. But this is serious stuff, folks. So as long as you don't analyze their claims, that is. Because in the mad rush to report on anything and everything that could be connected to planetary catastrophe, the people who tell us to follow the science never manage to actually do the research. Beginning from the very first Earth Day, remember that? It was in 1970. You're probably not old enough. There were issues. Much of the propaganda, the sermonizing was coming from that event. It was about freezing to death, the inevitable approaching ice age. Oh, also, famine was going to wipe out billions by the end of the century. Pollution blocked the sun. Citizens would need gas masks just to go outside. Acid rain kill off all the planet life. And we were on the verge of running out of oil 30 some odd years ago. So far, most of the starvation has been because of the Venezuelan political policy. There are problems with the creation of this day beyond being 180 degrees out of phase in predicting what today's degrees would be. Now, some might want to highlight how the founder of the event, who was Ira Einhorn, he murdered his girlfriend. But it's important to understand that he lived by example. He did compost her body. He followed his own sermons, as it were. Well, we listened to the campfire horror stories of an ice age, and we all took action. Just look at what happened. We ramped up our oil usage, so now we're heating up the planet. And instead of famine, we're killing people with obesity because of an excess of GMO foods. We can't win. Amidst this settled confusion, I want to help you out today on this birthday of the Earth in the name of education. I'm going to give you a lot of promised global climate warning, crisis, change, disasters. Starting with nature, the first victim in this natural disaster. Obviously, a lot of species are going to die off, but for those that do survive, it's going to be a far different life. To start, hedgehogs will start going bald. Yes, I know, the dire news that sends you into the fetal position to cope, but you really got to pull yourself together here. We've got a long road of poisonous asphalt ahead. Things are going to get far worse. For example, oysters will be plagued by herpes, which of course is a big danger to those who are bivalve curious. So yeah, oysters with an STD. That's going to be a big problem. Other species might thrive with varying degrees of success, but mainly they will kill us. There are going to be new sharks created. They will attack us more frequently. Crocodiles driven from the water to seek us out. And marauding jellyfish hunting us down. Vampire bats will become a plasma scourge. Now, I hear you thinking I'm just going to avoid the ocean and bat environments, but sorry. Even the benign garden creatures are going to be taking us over. Earthworms, toads, even those innocent, up until now, slugs. We all may want to welcome these fatal attacks, given how our own lifestyle is going to become a nightmarish hellscape. Look at our food supply. You can say goodbye to guacamole. Goodbye. You like Italian food? Too bad. Pasta's on its way out. Cereal in the morning? Buyer beware, because killer cornflakes are going to be arriving. And not only will the lack of snow diminish Christmas, but we're going to lose our gingerbread houses in the process. As a society, global warming means we are posed to devolve into a morass of incivility. Ladies, your sex lives, little insider info here for you. It's about to become very different. The rising heat means more women will be cheating while they're on vacation. Those lasses who can't afford travel, oh, you'll still be busy. You'll be turning to prostitution. And as for those middle class, well, you're going to be the victims of rapes that are surely going to become all the rage. Identifying your assailant, much more difficult, because they'll notice more of their attackers are not circumcised because of climate change. Beyond this, obviously, slavery. Oh, that's going to make a big comeback. I don't think I'm shocking anyone here, since everyone assumes we will see more witch executions as the temperatures rise. But one thing about the planet heating up that is constantly beating over our heads with a snow shovel, is how the environmental disaster is absolutely assured. Whether it's global cooling, global warming, climate change, or what they now call climate emergency/crisis, just know that all the scientists agree it's settled. The science, that is, not just the naming of it. Now, I'm fairly open to these sound theories, except I've got one little quibble. In looking over the data that is being offered as indisputable proof that global climate crisis is a certainty. But I got a question for you. Why is so much of the settled science data contradictory? Now, I might be more open to these claims on which scientists are all on the same page if they didn't keep offering up pages of conflicting promises. We'll start with the sharks that I mentioned earlier. Recall how they will be attacking us more frequently? We're also told that they'll be attacking us less as a result of global warming or climate change. This only sends us down a long, winding path of completely unsettled certainty with global alterations. Basically, we see that when science reaches a fork in the road, the answer is take it. We'll look at the effects on our beaches. How about that? AGW going to make the oceans saltier. Also, it'll lead to the oceans becoming lower in sodium at the same time. Not sure how that's possible. The change in climate promised to make ocean waves much bigger, also having a negative effect by making the waves much smaller. Global warming going to have a diminishing effect on coral reefs. The good news is that something will help the reefs grow, and that, they say, is global warming. You see where I'm going here? It gets better. Part of the reason we'll be heating up is because of an increase in clouds, which will have that heat trapping effect. Another reason we'll be heating up is that there will be fewer clouds, no longer trapping heat, but we will roast in the sunlight, unless the increase in clouds will reflect the sunlight and shade the planet, or we'll see a decrease in clouds altogether, which means they will not be trapping the heat, nor will they reflect the sun, which is either good or bad, and that depends on who you talk to. Even I'm confused at this point. Truthfully, when it comes to discussing climate change, basically just avoid talking about clouds at all, okay? You're just going to make the doomsday prophets cranky, so just leave the cloud thing alone. Also, the Earth's rotation, by the way, is going to be affected by climate change. We just can't be sure if it'll start turning faster, or maybe it'll start turning slower. Whatever happens, you can be sure it's going to be bad. Obviously, as we heat up, it means there'll be less snow. But that means fewer avalanches. Except that we also were promised that the mountain regions will experience more avalanches. Oh, yeah. Not sure how that math works out on that one. Probably best maybe to just avoid these snowless slopes altogether. The effect, this keeps going, the effect climate change is going to have on plant life is readily reported. Some of the reports, barking up the wrong weather-affected tree here, the impending climate crisis will cause the stunting of tree growth, followed by deforestation, countered with the promise that it will spur a faster growth of trees, leading to an expansion of our forests. What? This is from all their data. There's even conflict about the trees themselves. The impact would be to make trees less colorful, which will cause them to exhibit more color. Farming, severely negative impact from drought, loss of soil. And at the same time, they say farming will experience an expansion. Either way, crop production predictions are very dire, very dire. Banana production actually will increase because of a warmer climate. Oh, wait, nope, the increase in predatory bugs will kill them off. Also affected will be truffles. And we just haven't decided if they'll become more plentiful or if there might be a shortage. Could go either way. With all this canceled out stress, I know what you're thinking. Surely this is going to have an impact on beer, right? Because that's what's important. Of course. It will either be horrible for hops production or will lead to a drop in barley crops. Whatever the case, one thing we know for certain, beer will become more expensive, damn it. The animal kingdom also gives us plenty of promised paradoxes. Butterflies, at once imperiled by the environmental alterations, and they are rescued. Recall those oysters contracting sexually transmitted diseases? Well, the good news is apparently they don't die from the STDs. They simply become gigantic in size. Oysters like this. Penguin chicks, oh, they're severely threatened. But we can't seem to decide how. Either they're going to have to deal with an increased rain and heat, or they'll freeze to death. Could be either one. In any case, those little bastards are really screwed. And adding to all this chaos, our fish will start going deaf. Perhaps of all the concrete guesswork, one conflict illustrates the bipolarity of settled science. We cannot even come to a decision on pirates. The scientific and above criticism experts managed to become a little unsettled on whether we're going to see more of the privateers or fewer buccaneers because of global warming. I mean, seriously, they just cannot nail this down. And if they can't do that, what else have they gotten wrong? It all strikes me as a rather extensive list of combative data pointing to as proof for a subject said to be ironclad settled. Science is settled. I suppose if everything can be blamed on global warming, then it doesn't matter, since those items cancel themselves out. By all appearances, the main thing is agreed upon. Whatever happens is global warming, environmental change, crisis. It's a disaster. But I'm going to race this morning, go over and get a bowl of cereal before it rears up and kills me, which apparently it is going to do. Oh, man. Yes, Marilyn, hopefully that will mean even bigger pearls. Wouldn't that be nice, huh? Speaking of beer, wow, what a story. You remember the Bud Light mess with Dylan Mulvaney, that guy who wants to be a woman so bad, and Bud Light and all that crap that went on? Anheuser-Busch may finally have redeemed themselves. What a headline. Big beer is America first as Anheuser-Busch pours $600 million into American manufacturing jobs. Remember during the 2016 presidential campaign, Barack Obama asked about blue-collar jobs that continue to go overseas. He stated rather matter-of-factly that some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. He even added a bit of a snark, saying that then-candidate Donald Trump, who'd promised a revival of manufacturing jobs, he said, "There's no answer to it." This is Obama. "What magic wand do you have?" Well, like a lot of things, turns out you don't need a magic wand. You just need a new president. Yesterday, beer giant Anheuser-Busch announced it would be expanding on its promise to create and sustain American manufacturing jobs by increasing investments in U.S. operations to $600 million through 2025 and 26. The CEO, Brendan Whitworth, said Anheuser-Busch's $600 million investment is a testament to our unwavering commitment to the future of American manufacturing. By strengthening our operations, we are creating sustainable careers, not just jobs, and investing in the people who are vital to our success. We're proud to continue building the next generation of manufacturing leaders through our new technical training centers, while also providing new opportunities in the workforce for our nation's veteran. That's CEO of Anheuser-Busch, Brendan Whitworth. Anheuser-Busch's extensive plan based basically on three things: creating and sustaining manufacturing jobs, building the manufacturing workforce for the future, and strengthening manufacturing career opportunities for veterans, which is fantastic. This plan is to open 15 new technical skill training centers at AB facilities across the country, collaborating with technical trade schools. Brilliant. The idea is to upskill more than 90% of the technical workforce over the next 5 years. So far, more than 2,700 people have received training at the first best-in-class Technical Excellence Center at Anheuser-Busch's home in St. Louis. Maybe the best thing about AB's commitment and massive investment in America is their commitment to the nation's veterans. This goes beyond. This is great. They are working with Manufacturing Institute's Heroes Make America's initiative, which helps current former military members with resources in pursuing manufacturing careers. Smart Resume also partnered with the Heroes Make America talent, developed a platform that will allow veterans to take their military skills and make them more visible and understood by potential employers. They added the platform to their career website in order to support the hiring of vets and to guide them through the application process. Wow. American beer, American crops, American jobs. Anheuser-Busch in American manufacturing. That is absolutely fantastic. Let me speak for a lot of people when I say we forgive you for Dylan Mulvaney, okay? You have finally done something that overshadows and overpowers that idiot man who wants to be a woman. Brilliant. Good job, Anheuser-Busch. We're proud. We are indeed proud. And speaking of men who want to be women, how about this one? A couple has been accused of taking a child to Cuba for gender surgery. Oh, yeah. And now this couple is facing charges of kidnapping. When it comes to the subject of gender-affirming surgery, there is an argument to be made that adults, presumably those able to give informed consent, might seek out and get those kind of treatments. It's also an argument to be made that any physician who offers these kind of procedures has a very serious ethical problem in violating the non pinum nocere, in that they are carving up perfectly healthy tissues. But that's an argument for another time. With children, though, it's another story entirely. As a transgender woman, Rosa Inessa Ethington has learned after taking his 10-year-old son to Cuba, allegedly to seek gender reassignment surgery. The kid is 10. And now he and his partner, Blue Inessa Ethington, are in the pokey, facing possible kidnapping charges. Good. Here's the report. A transgender woman and her partner arrested Monday for allegedly kidnapping her 10-year-old son and flying him to Cuba, where the child's biological mother feared he would undergo reassignment surgery. Rose Inessa Ethington, 42, and her female partner, Blue Inessa Ethington, purportedly took the kid under the guise of going to a camping trip in Canada. I'm sorry, Cuba, Canada. They set their sights on Cuba. The family members feared the youngster would undergo this gender reassignment surgery. By the way, at 10 years old, way ahead of puberty. And Cuba, yes, does offer these treatments. They've done so for quite some time. However, they only offer it to Cuban citizens and only for adults. The child supposedly self-identified as a girl. He's 10. Family members are worried about manipulation by Rose, you think? This is like somebody claiming to have a vegan cat. Cat, child, you know, they were not the ones making the decision. That was on you, moron. In this case, the child, who for obvious reasons has remained unnamed, is now with his mother, who was awarded full custody April 13th, his biological mother. Before that, the biological parents had joint custody. Presumably, this is a case that crosses state and international boundaries, so the FBI and the DOJ are now involved. Good. DOJ put out a press release, said Rose and Blue Inessa Ethington, a.k.a. Carly Ann Crosby, 32, both of Cache County, Utah. Utah? What? Deported from Cuba Monday with the assistance of the FBI. Landing in the U.S., the two defendants appeared in court for an arraignment on Richmond, Virginia, transported to the District of Utah at a later date for the remainder of their court case. According to court documents, the 10-year-old was supposed to be traveling by car to Calgary in Alberta, Canada, for a planned camping trip with the minor victim's biological father, Rose, and Rose's partner, Blue, and Blue's 3-year-old child, who has not even mentioned in this story, and I fear for deeply. They never got to their hotel in Calgary. Instead, they showed up in Cuba. To call this child abuse is the biggest understatement of the year. These two, one of whom was a biological parent, apparently had the intention of subjecting this 10-year-old boy to treatment and surgeries that are debilitating, they are permanent, they are irreversible, and they are life-altering. He, again, is 10 freaking years old. If they had succeeded, this boy's life would have been absolutely changed forever. No hope of a normal life, no chance of having any children of his own, no chance at ever anything even approaching a normal sex life when he got older. All this for a child years short of being able to give any kind of informed consent, too young to even understand what would be happening to him. He wouldn't even realize what was going on or why his father was pushing him into it. Somehow 20 years doesn't seem like quite long enough for somebody who would have forced this kind of future on their own biological child. How sick are you? Thank God this 10-year-old boy is now with his biological mom. And these two absolute scum of the earth need a whole lot more than 20 years in prison, I can tell you that. Absolutely disgusting. Unbelievable. Here's another good one. Time for the find out phase. This convicted murderer who allegedly threatened ICE is finding out big time. Not surprisingly, serious threats against immigration agents are certainly on the increase. It ain't getting any better, thanks in no small part to the Democrat/media industrial complex. A very intentional efforts to try and demonize ICE and CBP agents because, Orange Man bad. The latest, one of these most bizarre ones, quite fittingly, allegedly involves a man from uber-left city of San Francisco. Oh boy. And has a very troubling rap sheet, to say the least. DHS announced the arrest of this idiot, deranged moron. Monday, language warning about this. I'll clean it up a little bit for you. This is from the actual DHS announcement. Today, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced April 10th, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE Homeland Security Investigations, San Francisco, arrested U.S. citizen Daniel Barber for sending a violent death threat to acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. Here's what he said in an email sent June 6, 2025. Your Gestapo Nazi maggot ICE agents should be terrified. ICE law enforcement officers deserve to be executed right there, as well as 2 effing bullets to the back of their maggot Nazi heads. And he added, that's not a threat, you little effing bee, but simply my opinion as to what these worms deserve. I'll be effing praying daily to the universe Americans start rising up and giving them and you exactly that. How nice. Seems pleasant enough, huh? They also talked about his criminal history, which, by the way, includes a murder conviction. ICE launched an investigation after they got the email. He was arrested April 10th, 2026 for the threats, just this month. He's got a lengthy criminal history, including a conviction for murder and robbery with intent to cause bodily harm back in 1990. How nice. Multiple arrests for burglary, battery, vehicle theft. They haven't yet announced the charges for this one. And they concluded by reminding people that just how much the threats against these agents and increased since the Democrats have been ramping up their anti-ICE CBP garbage propaganda against folks basically who are just enforcing the laws that Congress passed. An 8,000% increase in death threats against ICE enforcement agents. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You want another one that's absolutely unbelievable? Well, so happens I got one. But before we do that, since I have just taken a sip of the best coffee on the planet, this right here is Blackout coffee, and it is simply the best. Folks, you want a coffee that's just like you, strong, bold, never bitter. Well, I can be a little bitter, but not Blackout coffee. It is all done in-house. They source absolutely premium green coffee beans, which are graded at 80 points and above on a 100-point scale. Specialty coffees grown at the perfect altitude, just the right time of year in the best soil. They work with local co-ops and American farmers to grow these beans, and they adopt a strict adherence to what they call small batch roasting process for their coffee. When you order, only then are your beans roasted, and then within 24 to 48 hours, they are packed up and shipped out. Blackout coffee, roasted, packed, and shipped with lightning speed, usually 24 to 48 hours. That is the goal they set, and they meet that as best they can. And that means you get the beans just days after they've been roasted. They've got coffee pods. They've got flavored coffees, which are amazing, instant, all kinds of great cold brew. Check that out. And make sure you go over there, you just try a single bag. Pick out what you think might be your favorite roast. You can order not just whole beans, you can also have them grind them for you. So even if you don't have a way of grinding your beans, they'll do it for you. You check out the link in our description down below and use that link. If you're a first-time buyer, J20 is the code. It'll get you 20% off your first order, JAY20. And of course, they're always having specials over there at Blackout Coffee. John Santos and the gang, fantastic group of people. Head over there using that link in our description and subscribe and save even more. Blackout Coffee, fuel for the fearless. Strong, bold, American. It just doesn't get better than that. Thank you, Blackout Coffee, for being part of the show. A jihadi stabs a soldier for Allah, and doctors come up with a remarkable cure for what ails him. Oh, you're not going to believe this one. Even the most artful of satirists, say Jonathan Swift or Mark Twain, would be rather dumbfounded at this story. But this isn't satire. Apparently, it is just another day in this age of absurdity that we live in. A Canadian terrorist who burst into a military recruitment service and stabbed soldiers has been given permission to fly to Saudi Arabia and Somalia, even though officials say he continues to pose a significant threat to society. But they're going to let him go to Saudi Arabia and Somalia. Apparently, the reason behind this is they seem to think the trip will do Ayani Hassan Ali good, and it will help him become a more devout and observant Muslim. So, what could possibly be the problem with that? The ridiculous comic opera began when Ali entered the Canadian Forces Recruiting Center in Toronto back in March of 2016. He immediately attacked the corporal who was seated at the entrance, repeatedly punched him in the head, and using a kitchen knife, slashed and stabbed at the soldier. He then fought off other soldiers who tried to take him down. And after all this, Ali very helpfully explained his motivation, telling arresting officers that Allah told me to do this. Allah told me to come here. Allah told me to kill people. Now, anybody who thinks that Allah would possibly do any of this kind of thing would be crazy, right? Well, after all, it's a religion of peace, yeah? So in May of 2018, Ali was found not criminally responsible on 3 counts of attempted murder, as well as 2 counts of assaulting, causing bodily harm, 2 counts of assault with a weapon, and possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose due to his schizophrenia diagnosis. How nice. Well, that was 8 years ago. And now, he's fully recovered. He's planning to go on a pilgrimage to Mecca with his dad and meet a potential bride his dad found for him in Somalia on a 3-week-long trip. The Ontario Review Board heard earlier this month how Ali, who is Muslim, wants to travel abroad to facilitate a meeting with a woman as his father has been working on arranging a possible marriage with a woman who resides in Somalia. The review board was about as salacious as it could be for this man who wanted to kill for Allah. Mr. Ali, they say, has advised that this is not uncommon in his culture, and the marriage would only proceed if both parties were agreeable. He's hopeful he'll be able to travel to Somalia over the upcoming reporting year for an introductory meeting with the woman. It was decided that Ali was going to be permitted to take the trip. Yeah. To be sure, before the review board made this decision, Ali's doctors told him how devout he was in his observance of Islam, as if this were some positive step in his healing process. The doctors said happily that Ali's faith and religious beliefs continue to be very important to him, and he attends his mosque weekly, prays 5 times a day. Even better, he and his father have plans for a religious ritual of Umrah privilege, a pilgrimage to Mecca. In Saudi Arabia, Mr. Ali is studying to memorize the Quran and attends the mosque by his father's house daily to meet with his teacher. He's hopeful that his tutor might assist him in securing a volunteer position at a local school to tutor in math or French. The most absurd part of this whole story, which is riddled with absurd, is that Canadian officials are pointing to Ayanli Hassan Ali's devout observance of Islam as an indication that he is turning over a new leaf and rejecting violence, apparently completely uninterested in the fact that he repeatedly invoked Allah as his reason for stabbing the corporal in the first place. They decided at the time of the stabbing he was suffering from a mental disorder. But he's put all that behind him now and looks at the progress he's making, memorizing the Quran, attending mosque every day, and that means he won't be violent again because the true Islam teaches peace, doesn't it? The Daily Mail, which is the worst paper in the Western world, bar none, the simply worst on the planet, repeatedly refers to Ali as Canadian, in spite of the fact that he himself would almost certainly reject that label and insist he is only a citizen of the Ummah, the worldwide Muslim community. The Daily Mail, joke of a rag birdcage dropping liner that is, also informs us in the 6th paragraph of its story that Ali is Muslim, despite having told us in the 3rd paragraph that Allah told him to kill people. And this is because of the tiny minds at the Daily Mail's editors. The God of Islam would never and could never tell anyone to kill people. The Daily Mail doesn't know, and they don't frankly care, that the Quran says, kill them wherever you find them. 3 times. Contains numerous exhortations about violence, assumes Islam is peace. Everyone knows that. And so when this fellow starts insisting that Allah told him to kill, the Daily Mail think people are just out there scratching their heads, wondering why and what religion Ali professes. So a few paragraphs down, buried in the article, the Daily Mail manages to inform them. Meanwhile, this fellow is out there on the loose, headed for Saudi Arabia and Somalia, where he will find himself a bride. What could possibly go wrong? Other than, I don't know, maybe everything? What else we got going on? All right, let's do this one. Justice Sam Alito. Good old Sammy. Sam Alito is probably the most courageous SCOTUS justice that basically until now you've never heard much about. Alito embodies the quiet courage that's delivered some of the most important victories for constitutional liberty in generations. Justice Sam Alito marks his 20th year on the Supreme Court, which is a milestone that coincides with the release of a new book called Alito, the Justice Who Reshaped the Supreme Court and Restored the Constitution, and the timing of this book feels exactly right. We need reminding about what a real judge looks like in an era where the court faces relentless attacks from those who prefer activist robes to jurisprudence. Alito embodies the quiet courage that's delivered some of the most important victories for the constitutional liberties in, frankly, generations. Since one of Alito's colleagues was nearly assassinated by a deranged gunman who turned up at his house, life has not been easy for Supreme Court justices, especially the conservative ones. In fact, exclusively the conservative ones. But back when conservative justices could still be seen in public without being attacked by left-wingers, Alito and his wife attempted to get brunch in New Haven, Connecticut. They were turned away because of a long line. So Alito and his wife simply walked away, went down to the street. An eyewitness called it a very graceful moment. He didn't belly up to the door and say, "I'm a justice on the Supreme Court, you gotta let me in." No, just turned around and walked away. And that is absolutely vintage Alito. When he attends functions in Washington, which is like the city of inflated egos, he can be found in the corner, just quietly talking to a few people, making them feel comfortable. If somebody else starts talking, he stops. Doesn't get any energy from holding a glass of wine and having people pay homage to him. But his humility can be a problem too. As a tradition, the Supreme Court police stand every time a justice walks by. Alito's copy machine used to be in the hallway outside his chambers. And rather than asking his aides, he would make his own copies until the Supreme Court police asked his staff to make the copies so they wouldn't have to stand up every time he happened to walk by for some routine task like making a copy. Now, there is no question that Justices Alito, Clarence Thomas have been a fan favorite for many conservative court watchers, but for a certain kind of conservative. Alito's valiant cheering for a better previous version of America, even if it's a losing prospect, very deeply attractive. We love that kind of thing. Social critic Albert J. Nock recounted how God sent Isaiah to preach repentance, but warned him it won't do any good. And when Isaiah asked what the point was, he said, "There is a remnant here that you know nothing about. They need to be encouraged and braced up, because when everything has gone completely to the dogs, they are the ones who will come back and build up a new society." A very good description of Justice Alito's role. He doesn't necessarily take losses well. He doesn't hide his feelings. He's not a melancholy warrior, but he's not a happy one either. He cares very deeply about the law, getting the big issues right. He is affected by what the court does. Clerks can tell how confidence has gone from his facial expressions and his body language. At the end of each Supreme Court term, clerks from all the chambers organize and do a variety show. And one year they made fun of Alito's inability to hide his emotions by portraying him in the World Series of Poker. When he was dealt a good hand, he would beam and everybody else would fold. He likes to tease people. He's got a great sense of humor. Very dry, very subtle. Sometimes clerks are not sure if he's joking or not. One year he took them to see a Magna Carta exhibit, which included a Jay-Z rap album, Magna Carta Holy Grail. The justice looked at the docent and asked, completely deadpan, "What's a rapper?" He let that question sit for 5 seconds and then cracked a smile. He jokes about the little things. He needs clerks like a mother needs a toddler to help bake cookies. He doesn't need you there, but it's fun to lick the spoon. He knows the greatest of man's accomplishments are fleeting, and in his absolute humility, He doesn't regard himself as an inspiring figure. But as he once said, he hopes other Americans will share in his passion for preserving the Constitution and the free and prosperous way of life that Constitution has made possible. Justice Alito, an absolute hero for our times. All right, one very quick one before we go, because we're heading up on an hour here. It's a quick one. It's a which would you prefer choice. And this is great because I have not even thought about these things for like ever. Take a look at this. And by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, sorry, head over to YouTube or Rumble, check out our video. It's right at the very end. I don't care if you watch the whole show or not, doesn't matter. Click subscribe and follow. But look at that. Hostess pies, Hostess fruit pies. The writer here says cherry was my choice. Well, I have to tell you, I can't pick. I used to love these things. Do you remember that absolute sugary, fallen off crust that used to be on these things? It was so sickeningly diabetically sweet and good. And the filling, oh my God. I don't think they still make these things, which is a shame. My very favorite was cherry, but equally favorite would be lemon, which was great. And you know what? I forgot. Now that I look at this picture, peach, also a very, very strong offering. Oh, yeah. I think probably cherry and lemon I couldn't decide, but peach is also really good. Did you have a favorite? Do you even remember these things? And do they still exist? Can somebody find them and let me know? Maybe send me one or two. Not a bad idea. DM me. I'll give you my address. All right. That's it. We're done. Please follow, subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. We've got a whole list in our description of ways you can help the show out. You want to donate to keep us free and keep us in the gravy here. You can do that at our PayPal link. Also, all our great sponsors, Blackout Coffee, NordVPN, Ground News, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I will see you all tomorrow for the Friday edition of the Jay Sheldon Show.